Hello, this is Scott Julian from Scott in the System, and I think today is our fourth installment of the show, and today we are talking with the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services of West Michigan, and our first segment we are going to do a demonstration of adaptive devices for the deaf and hard of hearing with Nancy Cluley, and Renita Creasy will be interpreting for us. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, Scott. We're excited to be able to talk a little bit about who we are and what we do. You wanted me to show a little bit of the technology?
Yes, please do.
Okay.
I'm very curious.
All right. Well, the first thing I think I'll start with is the most obvious thing. Hopefully. That looks like a telephone, hopefully.
Yeah.
This is extra large phone for people who have the need for seeing larger numbers, but more importantly, it has an amplified where you can hear the voices on the other end are 50 decibels, and normally a phone is about 25 decibels. So it doubles the sound for them. And it also doubles the ringer when they can hear the ringer a lot more loudly. I don't know if you want me to give prices, if that's necessary to help people understand.
Yeah, I think it would be, because I'm sure our viewers are probably thinking, gee, I wonder how much that might be, or something like that.
All right. We buy all of our equipment from one provider, and with shipping and handling and taxes, it would probably run about $60.
Okay.
Okay.
I can relate to that device a little, just to tell a quick story. When I was a teenager, my parents ended up having to get like a wall mount flasher for when the phone would go off.
Okay.
Because Scotty was playing his heavy metal music so loud, I couldn't hear the phone ring.
All right. Well, you know what? I should have pointed that out. I'm glad you said that. There is a flasher on this phone that goes right here. So for people that are hard of hearing, they can see the flasher as well.
Okay.
Maybe heavy metal music is what caused them to have hearing loss.
Well, yeah, if it was me, I would say it was the exact contribution.
Okay. Not to get off topic, but they're actually now statistically, people are finding that hearing loss is diagnosed about 10 years younger, because more and more people have been exposed to loud music and wearing a lot of extra things in their ears.
I can totally agree with that.
So be careful. Anything that's over 85 decibels will harm your ears. I'm just giving that extra bit of information.
Oh, yeah. I totally can understand. Why not, protect our hearing?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. This is a smoke detector, and it's got a very loud alarm, but it also has a very bright strobe light. And people, when they're sleeping, if they are deaf or hard of hearing and take their hearing aids out, they typically can't hear a regular smoke detector.
Wow.
So this actually is not hardwired. You can just plug it into the wall. And this, if you live in the Grand Rapids area, they will actually provide you with an assessment of your home to see if you need smoke detectors, and if you do, they will provide them for free.
I was just wondering, do they have like a built-in carbon dioxide?
There is another device you can get for carbon monoxide, but it's not built into this device.
Okay.
And this is a little more expensive. This will run probably close to about $180 to $200. But
Wow.
if you live in Grand Rapids, like I say, they have a program you can call, get an assessment for free, and have your smoke detectors provided for free. So
that's a wonderful service.
The next device here is for a doorbell. And the nice thing about it is you just plug it into the wall, so you can have it portable with any room that you would like to plug it into. It's wireless, so this gets stuck onto the front door. And this is a very loud alarm as well, and with the strobe light again. And this normally goes for like about $65.
Really? Wow.
Earlier, you had asked me if insurance covers any of these devices, but they do not. Just like hearing aids, most insurance companies do not cover hearing aids, nor any of these amplification devices.
Wow, I can understand these devices maybe, but hearing aids, that's a tough one to understand.
That's very tough. They run anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000.
Oh yes, my grandmother had to get a hearing aid, and that was the first thing she talked about was the expense.
Yeah, there are some grant dollars locally that we can help people with as well. So I'm hoping you're going to show our phone number at some point of our contact information.
They'll be on the screen as we're talking when we do the editing portion.
Okay. This is a TV talker, and what you do with this is it gets plugged into the back of the TV, and this is wireless. You just basically put this on like so, and you can actually have the TV on mute if someone wants to read the newspaper, and then just adjust the volume right close to where you're located. So you can have two people in the same room, one watching TV and one having a quiet room to read in as well.
Okay.
And that's a couple $100 as well.
Wow.
The last thing that we have here is actually an alarm clock. It's called a sonic boom alarm clock.
Wow.
And the reason I can mimic the sound, my daughter has this. She was born with hearing loss, and when she went away to college, she used the sonic boom alarm clock. It goes boop, boop, boop. That's about the noise level that it is. But what she would turn off the audio, and this is a bed shaker. This vibrates between the mattresses, and that's how she gets up right now. I sell a lot of those to a fair number of people who need some help to get up in the morning. And actually some people who don't have hearing loss find it beneficial as well.
Yeah, I can understand that because my mother was, not, hard of hearing. She even had the traditional alarm clock with the bells.
Oh.
It would put that across the room as a backup alarm,
Okay, yep. Yeah, some people, my husband actually used to use 3 alarm clocks because he couldn't get up. That was his excuse. But this runs about $100.
Wow. These are a lot more expensive than I was thinking.
Are they? Yeah. There are some grant dollars if people are considered low income, and people that have an individual household income of less than $23,700 per year would qualify for financial assistance as well.
Yeah, and that made me wonder as well. I would say gaining employment could be difficult as well in the deaf and hard of hearing community.
It is a struggle, but if people, if they are working or seeking out work, they can contact the Michigan Rehabilitation Services, and they will also help pay for financial assistance with some of these devices and hearing aids.
Yeah, so they could be a more productive employee.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Are there any other devices you would like to talk about before we end this segment?
There's actually a lot of advances in Bluetooth technology that I don't have here. I know my daughter, she was thrilled when they started with Bluetooth, because now when she wants to talk on her cell phone, she can sync it up with her cell phone directly to her hearing aids, whereas phones, especially cell phones, are not very easy to hear normally. There's also something I don't have showing here. It's called a pocket talker, and it's an amplification device. It's a headset, and it has a little microphone that you wear in your pocket. So if you either don't want hearing aids just because you have a hard time putting them in your ear, or if you don't want to deal with the expense of them, you can buy a pocket talker, and that's something I sell a lot with people that want to have a conversation with 1 or 2 people. A lot of times play cards with friends. And it's also adaptive, where it has a longer cord that can go behind the TV, so you can listen to TV with that as well.
Okay.
There's a lot more available that the company that we work from, I'd say their catalog is probably about 150 pages.
Okay. Would our viewers have access to that link on your website?
Absolutely. We would
Okay.
have their logo on our website and
Okay.
their contact information.
Oh, that's wonderful. So they can explore these different options.
And their user interface for their website is very easy to navigate.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there anything else that comes to mind, or?
Not that I can
Okay.
think of with the assistive technology, no.
Okay, folks, I guess that is this portion of the show. We'll take a break and be right back. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Hello, this is Scott again. We are back from our first segment, talking with the deaf in the hard of hearing services. For our second segment, we will be talking with Deb Antwood, the executive director. Thank you. Nancy Cooligan, community liaison and hearing assistance technology specialist. Nancy Harrison, American Sign Language coordinator. Who is deaf? Renita Creasy, who is the youth program coordinator. Will be interpreting for Nancy Harrison. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you so much for having us, Scott. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. For our first question, could you please explain how the Jensens dramatizing experience in 1995 helped to establish these services that were really needed by the community?
Absolutely. Well, back in 1995, Marty Jansen, he is deaf and he's been in the community for a very long time. He woke up in the middle of the night and he thought he was having a heart attack. So he nudged his wife like anybody would do, and she is also deaf. She has a little bit of hearing and she has a little bit of a voice. So she got up and she called on the TTY and she called the dispatch, and she was trying to get through. She tried several times. Well, they continued to hang up on her.
So
Because-
therefore, the 911 operator did not have a TT, how do you say that?
TTY.
Yeah.
Well, actually, she didn't need one because she was
Oh.
going through an interpreter. So actually, it would have went right through.
Oh,
But because it was
okay.
kind of a different sound, and initially an interpreter will announce themselves.
Oh,
This is Sorensen, or this is whoever, and this is a
Okay.
call from a deaf and hard of hearing person. And so they thought it was a prank call. They weren't experienced. They weren't trained in this. So they continued to hang up. Well, Diane's getting very frustrated. Her husband's continuing to have this heart attack. And so she decided to pick up the phone. She dialed 911, and with a little bit of a voice that she has, she was explaining, trying to give her address so they would come. So it took a little bit of time, but finally the ambulance showed up and got him to the hospital. So that was good. He could have potentially died, but he got to the hospital safely. So when they got to the hospital, at that time there weren't very many interpreters, and the ADA wasn't necessarily set up that time to guarantee there would be an American Sign Language interpreter there for him. So the hospital had, I think, one contact. So they contacted this one interpreter. The interpreter came. stayed for a very long time through all of the testing and such. And eventually she got tired. I mean,
Yeah.
for what interpreters do, it is a very tiring job to continue to do that, test after test, hour after hour. So finally the
Oh,
interpreter,
yes, most definitely.
oh yeah, so the interpreter finally said, I'm really sorry, but I have to leave. There was nobody else to contact. So Diane had to interpret for the doctor to her husband. Well, here you have a woman that has very little residual hearing, is trying to lip read basically, and that's only about 30% that she's catching. So she's interpreting for the doctor to her husband. Not a good situation. Luckily, everything worked out. Eventually, they got home, but they knew at that time that they had to do something, because this had happened many times. But they finally said, now we have to do something. So they got quite a few interpreters together in the area. They got other deaf, other people, hearing people that were concerned about this, and they got together and they formed Deaf Inc. at that time.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just glad, nobody, had to die or anything
Oh,
like
absolutely,
that.
absolutely. But no one knows if anybody did before that.
Yeah,
That's the heart-wrenching part of that.
yeah, exactly. Next question, please. How does an interpreter become certified, and why is this important to be certified? I think I was wanting to ask.
I think what we'll do is we'll let Renita answer that, since
Okay.
she is a certified interpreter.
So the biggest portion is the reason why, and that's because in the system of things, it's really hard if you are interpreting, like Diane was interpreting for her husband. So at the same time that she's trying to interpret, she also has to think about what's going on and make the decisions for his life at the same time. So you have a huge emotional connection there, and with that, you might not always interpret it the right way or interpret it thinking clearly. So you might add your own emotional bias and so forth. So interpreters that are certified, generally, if they know the person, they know of them. They're not really family, nothing like that. They're actually certified interpreters that can come in and interpret for the emergency situation and not add their own bias. So that's the biggest important reason for why. But as far as the process for becoming certified, it depends on which type you're going for. So if you want to be like nationally certified, you go through the process of taking national tests. And then if you want to be state certified, here we have the BEI system. And you can work your way up from a BEI 1 up to the BEI 3, and then go on to national certification if you would like.
And I'm not sure if this is the right portion to ask, but I was always wondering, is there like a shorthand for sign language where people only have control of one hand over the other?
It's a good question.
There's not really like a shorthand version. However, because of everyday life, people are always, like, if they're talking and drinking or talking and eating, they can still sign one-handed and drink and eat with the other hand.
Okay.
So they can be adapted, but when you're more proficient, then you can adapt those signs.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious, if I wanted to try it, I would be limited being I'm right hand dominant.
We've actually have found and have seen that many people with other abilities have taken up sign language because it's much easier. They're testing it and finding it that it works very well with autistic kids now.
Oh,
I mean, kids can start as early as 4, 6 months old, 9 months old, start with food, milk, mom, dad, as easy as that. And a lot of these kids will adapt to that quicker than they will a spoken language.
oh, I see.
Mhm.
Very interesting. For our next question, what is the schedule scheduling process, process requirements for an interpreter?
Well, I can answer that. Typically, what we like is 2 weeks out. Sometimes it's a day, 24 hours, and then a prospect, say a school, a doctor, a court system lawyer, will call us and say, I have a deaf person who has an appointment at 10 o'clock on Monday, June 6th, and I need an interpreter for them. So we will ask for all that pertinent information, what specifically the appointment's about, where the appointment is, and who the deaf person is, because we want to match that deaf person with the best interpreter that we have available. And once we get all that information, we send it out to our interpreters. They are all contract through us. So some of them will work for other agencies, they work independently, they work for hospitals on their own, schools on their own, and so it's a scheduling process, and the best fit comes along, then we schedule them for that, and then we will call that agency or that place back and say, we have an interpreter scheduled for you. Now, unfortunately, sometimes we can't find an interpreter. Either interpreter's too busy, it's too last minute, it's just not a perfect fit. They also have to have a special endorsement now through the state of Michigan for medical, mental health, legal, and deaf-blind interpreting. So we need to have those endorsements for those appointments. So sometimes the deaf person might go without an interpreter, which is not a good situation. Sometimes they have to reschedule and reschedule again. And we know that sometimes appointments just cannot be rescheduled.
I would hope most of the time they could, just for reasonable accommodation purposes.
We always hope the same.
Okay. What are the key questions people should ask themselves if they suffer from hearing problems?
I can answer those, Scott. It's actually, believe it or not, more often than not, people come in with a family member that is really initiating the conversation. A lot of times, say a husband is suffering with hearing loss and is in either denial or won't talk about it, or doesn't accept the fact that his wife is telling him, I'm talking louder and louder. So when a husband and a wife comes in together, usually that means that someone's talking for someone else. But to help yourself, if you start to have a ringing in your ears called tinnitus, quite often that's a key indicator that you might be suffering from some hearing loss. If you have a hard time on the phone and you find yourself saying, huh, or if you can't hear the doorbell, we do have some cases in senior homes now where people are leaving their doors unlocked because they can't hear someone ring their doorbell, which is not a safe thing to do.
Yeah, depending on the given environment.
Correct. So TV's a really easy one where people, if you find yourself turning the TV up louder and louder, that's another indicator that you're probably suffering with some hearing loss.
Yeah, or if the neighbor comes over to tell you to turn it down.
Yeah. Funny story, I did have a person come to me and asked me if I would go visit their neighbor because they thought they were suffering with hearing loss. I said, I'm sorry, that's confidential. I can't do that.
Yeah.
But so those are some of the things that people should be asking themselves. And always, to get a hearing test, it's not something that's a standard physical procedure, but most people start to suffer with hearing loss by the time they're 50. You know, just like eyesight starts to go, the hearing as well does.
Oh, I know all about that.
Okay.
Yes, the older I get, the bigger the font size has to be.
Yep, but hearing is no different. But it tends to be an invisible disability where people don't realize it until it's much farther gone than they realize.
Yeah, well, hopefully they can come to the realization before it gets to that point.
Well, hopefully shows like this will help build the awareness.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping as well. What type of issues can your staff assist individuals within. Please explain the family integration and hearing loss workshops. Don't know why I have trouble with the questions today.
That's okay, it happens. I can answer part of that. We are contacted several times a week, if not sometimes daily. Say a deaf, for instance, is trying to get a doctor's appointment and the doctor just will not provide an interpreter. We can just write back and forth. Well, that doesn't work. You wouldn't write back and forth with your doctor, so why would someone expect a deaf person to be able to do that? Maybe they're losing their home. Maybe they don't have any food. Maybe they are having problems with the Social Security office. Maybe the people in their family just don't understand and they need somebody to talk to. Maybe the ADA laws are not being fulfilled for them as far as accommodation. There's many things we are contacted. A deaf person just moved to the city, doesn't have anywhere to go. Sometimes we have to set them up at through God's Kitchen, Dégagé. Sometimes we have to go through there. And then you have the communication piece that's in there also. So there are many, many different things that we deal with at the agency. And it's difficult for us because I have 3 full-time staff, I have 4 part-time staff, many volunteers, but we receive no state or federal funding whatsoever. So along with doing our daily duties of things that we need to do, then we'll add in these extra things that sometimes will take more time, we need to find more resources, and we are more than happy to do it, but sometimes it's just difficult.
Yeah, because you're just not prepared for the given situation.
Absolutely. And sometimes we say we've seen it all, and then of course something will happen, and it's something new.
Yeah, I could definitely see you're always on your toes. You never know what that next phone call might bring.
Well, we don't know. Plus, we're the only agency that does what we do in West Michigan. We go up to Traverse City. We cover over 26 counties. We go to Flint, close to the Lansing area, down to Goshen, Indiana, and then along the lakeshore. So that's a lot of area to cover.
Wow, that's a lot of territory
Yes, it
to
is.
cover. Wow. Yeah. Next question, please. I see you have a community education program such as ACL classes, on-site and off-site, and tutoring, sensitivity training.
Yeah, I could answer to that one. I'm just going to briefly explain about ASL 1 through 3. So there is different levels of learning. So you start basic, and then to 3 is a little bit more in depth. After that, we have conversational signs, which shows a little bit more of the communication aspect. And we provide the ASL classes for families that are members who are deaf, or children that are deaf, you know, and they want to communicate with their children as well. You know, sometimes we do it to communicate with coworkers on the job or at home. So really, anywhere. It's a very general thing that we can bring places. So college is different. This is more focused on community awareness and community learning. And we have few students that are thinking about becoming interpreters, but they want to start with the community learning so that way they can take those sign language classes, get their feet wet, and then go into a college level classes, because those are completely different to become an interpreter. Then when you're going outside, like as far as the outreach and stuff, we have tutoring for families that want to learn to communicate with their child. Sometimes we have kids that are autistic and their families want to communicate that way. We've also had some foster children and their families want to communicate that way. So it's basically helping to build that foundation in the home. And families typically really want to learn.
Yeah, why would we not want to communicate better with our family members, even though we would like to think otherwise?
Absolutely.
Yes, for sure.
Nancy, you want to talk about the CAST?
Yeah, CAST stands for Cultural and Sensitivity Training, and it's a program that we've had now for a couple years where we'll go into organizations, and it's got three parts to it. One is to expose people to deaf culture and give them a greater awareness of what that really means, because there's a lot more to it than just not hearing. There's also the need to learn about technology, like we talked about earlier today. And then we also talk about the hard of hearing. Hard of hearing and deaf cultures are very different communities, and quite often deaf don't consider themselves as a disability. They were born this way, and they love being deaf. I mean, they embrace it and everything that's about with it. You'll hear about deaf pride, where hard of hearing, typically people lost their hearing, they have lost something. So to them, they're trying to find a way to get it back. So this is something we've introduced to large organizations. I'm going to be at Steelcase, I'm going to Meyer. We've been into nursing homes. We've been talking to caregivers, people that work with the elderly that need to know a little bit more about working with the deaf and the hard of hearing. And it's actually becoming much more something that the community does want, so we're excited about the opportunity.
As opposed to shying away from it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
We did that for the Kentwood Police Department. That was very successful.
Yes.
That was 3 segments?
We did 3 segments for them. We had over 75 police officers that were all trained on it, because when they come across a deaf person, maybe a speeding ticket, you know, you don't know when someone is deaf when they react. They're deaf, so they're afraid. They don't know what's going on. We've got some tools. There's a visor that you can put inside your car that helps the person know what kind of symbols to use with the police, and the police can also reference that as well.
That's very interesting, because I can imagine how scary that type of situation could be for both, you know, the police and the individuals.
Correct.
It is, because you'll get a deaf person and right away they're going to start moving their hands. Well, a police officer is going to step back because they're moving their hands. And if they're going to reach for a card from the visor that says, "I'm deaf," maybe they're reaching for a gun. The police officer doesn't know. So it's a very difficult situation. So we're really hoping that more police departments will pick up on that.
Yeah. I hope that was a role model or a great example to go by.
Oh, yeah.
We've had calls from Muskegon and Grand Rapids after we did that too. So I think the word is spreading.
That's wonderful.
I think Nancy wants to add to that.
Okay.
Yeah, I did want to add to that as well. We're hoping in the future to have hospitals come to us as well, because as Renita had discussed about interpreters and families interpreting, it's very different. So it's always great if a hospital would do a CAST training and introduce their people, their workers, to what it's like to handle these concerns with a loved one. You know, the interpreter, having them come in and interpret that. So I just wanted to add that.
Okay. Thank you. Please explain your youth program.
We're going to let Renita do that.
Thank you. So much like the rest of our programs, our youth program came from the need. A lot of children are either in homes that there's no other deaf around them, or there are deaf at home but not in school. So a lot of times with our kids, they're spread all over the state, like you had mentioned that we help all over. So they're spread out all over the place.
I can totally understand that, being I was the only wheelchair-bound student from 7th grade up, so.
And how did that make you feel that you didn't have other kids to relate to what you were going through?
I guess I just didn't really think about it. I mean, today I hear so many stories about these, disabled individuals being, made fun of bullying and all these things. I guess I grew up in a different period. You know, the only issue I had to worry about was people fighting over who pushed me from class to class.
Wow.
You were lucky to have that opportunity.
Wow.
Yes, lucky.
Awesome.
So because of that, we saw the need to have a program for kids to come and just be around kids that have the same abilities they do, families that want to learn, friends that want to learn, and bring them all together. The cool part about that is we teach them some signs, because some don't know signs already, and
Right.
some do. So we teach some signs, we play games, but it's all interactive learning.
Right,
And so they can learn on the moment.
right,
And we-
right.
Do strange things like my hair, for example. So I don't know if you noticed, but from here down is all black because for interpreting, you have to have that color contrasting background.
Right, right.
But for kids sign, I have found that it's really more of an attraction for them. So what I mean by that is I do my hair all different. I have bright colored clothes. I have strange splatters of paint all over, stuff that makes it fun and energetic for them. And then I always get asked the question, why do you look so different? Or why are you strange? Because I'll be covered in glitter and color, right? So the answer to that I always discuss with them is, well, how are we the same? So that's always easier for them to try and figure out, okay, so we're kind of the same this way, kind of the same this way, but we're different. Like I have a hearing aid, you don't, you have a cochlear implant, that kind of thing. And so slowly bringing them through the process of, okay, so we're different, but we're also the same. I look strange and you still like me. So just because we're different, why can't we all get along together, work together, play together? So the first time I ever did that, I had one little boy who came up to me and we went through that process, and he had no friends at school at all. And so, you know, he went through that process and was just totally intrigued. So I was informed that the next year he went to school, all like crazy clothes and all got up for fun. And the parents let him, and he went to school that way to teach the other kids how you can be same and different. And he came back the following year with 3 friends.
So it's a great association thing.
Yes, for sure. And that's why all of our learning is done through the activities we do and through the play that we do. So we do like bi-monthly activities. We also do a week-long camp for both kids and teens. 2 years ago, we just started the teen camp.
Okay.
And that program just keeps growing. We are now at the point, as Nancy mentioned, we'll have people coming and asking for help. That we just got past that where I couldn't handle everything. So we have adjusted the program and how we're doing it. So we have a foundation, which we're calling the Family Foundation. And then we have other people that are specialized in like school education, foster parenting, and so many different things. So we bring in those volunteers to come help the families one-on-one to really support all of the families' needs that we've been getting.
Okay. Wow, it's a very complicated, process.
One thing I would like Renita to add to that is, what is the reaction from the community? What have we done with that piece, Renita?
For sure. Well, as mentioned, we do activities, but in those activities, we're going out in the community. So we've done everything from zip lining to the Children's Museum to Frederick Meyer Gardens. So we just go all over the place. And then while we're doing that, we're learning a song as well. And actually this year we came here and we made a music video.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, it was really cool. So we have 2 music videos that we made through you guys. But that music video and that song, we practice it every single day. So when we're practicing it every day, whatever location we're at, they get that exposure. And one of the times that we went, we were at Frederick Meyer Gardens, and they were really surprised. Like, we had a ton of people that were just around watching us, seeing what we were doing, and very curious about it. And you see people slowly change their minds and their thinking from, wait, what a minute. You mean you're gonna put deaf kids in water? How's that gonna work? Aren't they gonna like have shock, or what's gonna go wrong, their hearing aids? All of that stuff. And we've actually had people mention that to us. We're like, nope. So you see them change from that they don't have to have everything, to they're still just kids. They love to get wet, they can play, they can run, whatever.
Right.
They're
I
still
can
just
totally
kids.
sympathize with that. Just because I'm in a wheelchair, I got in trouble just like everybody else. It didn't limit my, my wanting to be a kid.
For sure.
There are no costs for this program, is there?
Well, that's the tough one. We actually incur a lot of cost trying to, sometimes we have to transport kids. Sometimes, going to the events, they have costs that we have shared and all of that stuff. But what we have done to try and minimize the costs for the families is to get grants.
Right.
So we get the grants, and then we can get scholarships for kids that can't afford it. Then we can send them. If they need transportation, we can try to cover that. But in general, there is quite a huge cost to run a program like this.
I'm sure, yes.
Yeah. So the families that can afford it, they pay, which helps a lot to offset the cost for the rest of the families. Because, yeah, as great as grants are, those monies run out very quickly.
Oh, I'm sure, because there's such a overwhelming need for it.
Yes, for sure.
Do you have any community events coming up soon?
Actually, we do. September 9th, we are having a young lady who is one of our interpreters, and she is doing a Cycling to Give. And she is taking off for 3 weeks? 3 weeks, I believe it is. She's leaving September 9th. She's going for the 3 weeks, and she's going to be traveling over 1,200 miles. She's going to be going to over 20 lighthouses on her own, on a bicycle.
Wow.
Yes, this is the 5th year that she's done that. So we're going
Wow.
to, yeah, exactly. I can barely go half a mile. But anyway, so we're going to be leaving from Ramada Inn, which is on the corner of Beltline and 28th Street. So that, we're going to be leaving from there. She's going to be leaving from there. September 9th and 10th at that same location, we're going to be having a workshop by Terry Heading, I believe, and she is a certified deaf interpreter from Mount Sinai Hospital in Chicago. What else do we have going on?
We've got Signing with Santa.
Signing Santa, which is coming up December 16th. And that's going to be at Northview High School. Our ASL classes are beginning September 11th. We're in many locations on that. They can go to our website and see that. And
Back to
Bernita,
school.
don't you have a back to school event coming up?
Yep, we have a back to school event coming up on September 14 in the evening. We start from 5 to 7, and so all the families can come. This event is going to be a little bit more relaxed, so that way families can participate with each other instead of just having the kiddos be there. So it's more of like a big family night where you can get together, learn sign, play with all the toys they have.
Okay. Would that be all the current events you guys have coming up? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I think they'll end their show today. Thank you everybody for watching. And always remember, yes, you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for
Thank you,
having us
Scott.
today.